Woodcraft. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe. Today I'll be going over Woodcraft and how it plays with 2 players. Now Woodcraft is a woodcrafting game where you'll be gathering your pieces of lumber, gluing them together, sawing them, planting them, doing the best you can to fulfill these orders. And the orders will get you more hazelnuts, which are victory points, and blueberries, which are the currency. You'll be using these throughout the game to manipulate, to buy some helpers, to buy some workers, to buy some resources, to be able to work on your workshop a little bit better. And hopefully after 14 turns, you've accumulated the most hazelnuts and you've won the game. So let's see a little bit more how to play. So I'm not going to go over everything in great detail, but I will tell you the kind of game flow of the game. First, on your turn, your trees are going to grow. So if you've planted a tree, they grow 2 pips. And when I say grow, everybody has these dice. There's 3 different color of dice with kind of varying values. And when they're planted, the higher dice number, usually the more it's planted. Once it hits a 6, you need to put it in your wood shop as it's a fully grown kind of tree, kind of lumber that you can use. So first you're going to grow your trees, if you have any. Then the next big thing is like the action phase. You can do some free actions, but the main action is going to be the 7 potential actions on this main board. You have everything from getting more orders to picking up another helper, to selling some lumber, to buy a big piece of lumber, to maybe planting one and using one of your helpers to give you a little bonus. It may be some blueberries, it may be a little piece of lumber. You can also buy some resources if you need some wood glue or some extra saws to cut the wood. Upgrade your shop. There's a couple upgrades you can do, which kind of get into the free actions, and then you can also buy. So your ultimate goal in the game is to procure the lumber, to get more lumber to fill your orders. Now, there's also some free actions in the game which you're allowed to do, which is saw wood. So you have these dice manipulation, these couple free actions where you can split a dice into 2. You can split a 6 into a 1 and a 5, or a 3 and a 3. You can add a little bit, add a pip to a dice using some scrap wood. Or using some wood glue, you can glue 2 dice together and add them together. So there's a lot of free actions you can do. Like I said, there's a lot to this game. Now, let's get back to the action, where this is the neat mechanic in this game, where when you do an action, you pick up one of these, Wheel of Fortune-like tiles, and you move it to the next section. So all these actions are usually available unless one action's really been done a lot. But as an action gets done more often, this front saw wheel kind of changes, and the actions that weren't taken for a while become more beneficial to take. The ones with some extras that are on the outside spaces with extra things to take are just more beneficial, and you're like, ooh, that may be nice to get a reputation and something else. So there's a lot to this game. The action phase is really neat. This is kind of the really big crux of the game is, picking the actions that really give you the best benefit, that you can, and not just picking the same actions over and over. So that's kind of a high level overview. So let's see what I thought about the game. Let's talk about the components in this game. When I unpacked this game, there was a lot. There was a lot in this game. There was a lot of mini cards that you had to sort, put in the pile, shuffle. A lot of dice. The dice are kind of just on the lower side of niceness, but they get the job done. They're kind of that Grand Austria Hotel kind of style. But there's a lot of different components here. One thing I do want to touch on is I do like the scrap wood, the wood glue, and the extra saw blades, is I feel like the matching colors really do add to some of the free actions that you get to take later in the game. Now onto the rules and references. The rules were a little bit more thick than I thought they would be. Every action the person knowing the game needs to know what every action does. And I say that because there is no reference sheet, and on a game like this, I get it, it's a little bit heavier. Maybe they don't think they need a reference sheet, but man, would it be nice that there was a one-page reference sheet for the game. There are some, on BGG, but it kind of stinks that the game itself doesn't include one for like a quick, hey, I forgot what this action does. I want to do it, or it gives me some good bonuses. There's just a lot of iconography that once you play the game, sure you get, but getting this back to the table because of the iconography I'm going to have to read the rule book again. That's just how it's going to go, and that's super unfortunate with a game like this. It's not accessible to everyone. So let's talk about setup and table size. Setup, like I said, it'll take you about 15 minutes, and the first time will take you about 20. Reading the rules, definitely don't skimp on the rules. And then the table size, I'd say this can be played on a 3x3, but sitting side by side, being able to see everything in the board, it takes up a little bit more in a 3x3, in my opinion. So let's talk about the gameplay. And this is where, a lot of opinions may differ. I think the gameplay is pretty dry. My wife liked it because there was a decent amount of theme with it. You could glue stuff. You could, hire people to help you. You could plant things. The theme for her was there, and I could definitely see the thematic, elements. Maybe even thematic mechanics. But it's pretty straightforward. There's no hidden information. There's not a lot of randomness in the game. Maybe what dice are down here as far as what you can buy and some of the cards that may get drawn, but they're not as impactful, say like a viticulture, where when you draw a card, it may change the course of what you're going to do, for the next little bit. The 4 orders you're going to start with in the game. The actions are they're set. They're not randomized at the beginning because it really doesn't matter because they're going to move quadrants. This game has very little hidden information. And for people who like a really competitive game where probably the better player that played the best game will win, this may be the game for you. Personally, maybe I like a little bit more randomness in my game, but the gameplay itself is good. Deciding, am I going to spend one of my precious 14 actions to upgrade my workshop so that future me will be happy that I have some free actions? Do I need to plant something now so in 3 turns I can get that bigger dice to then cut into 2 and fill this order that needs 2 of that dice? There's a lot of planning with this game too. The helpers help out a decent amount. My wife filled her attic quite a bit, but a lot of my orders didn't have anything to do with the attic. I was getting so many blueberries I almost didn't know what to do with. You could score points with blueberries if you want. She had her attic pretty full with tools, which gave her bonuses. So there's a lot to this game. I thought this game would be nice and light about wood crafting and wood making. No, this is a thick game. Now, this is a good game for a lot of people who don't like hidden information, but just know to get this to the table, maybe it's a pretty thick game. So is this game good for 2? And I will say in the games we've played, we've really enjoyed this game for 2. You don't do a whole lot on the other player's turn, but kind of plan. There's not a whole lot that they can do to mess you up other than, take the visible cards that are right there, take the dice. Even if they move one of the actions, most of the time you can still do that action on your turn if you really want. Now, to plan it where you do some of these backlogged actions may be a little bit different. I could definitely see this game being pretty good at 3. I don't think I'd ever play this game at 4. That'd be too much downtime for me. But at 2, I really like this game. There was a lot of times I didn't spend looking at Shelby's board and thinking, what's she gonna do? I was so engrossed on what I was gonna do. So I would say a little bit more solitary, a little bit, really just trying to maximize my points instead of trying to do anything to hamper the opponent. So I think this game is good for 2. It has really good pacing. I could see it at 3, but that starts to get into that downtime where, on somebody else's turn, if they have a pretty long turn, it may, if you don't like to wait, I'm an impatient person myself, so, playing with my wife and the really fast back and forth, it was a really good time. I think 2 is a good number, and there may be a disparity when somebody really has a good strategy going, when their cards kind of fall in line. You can really see that they optimize their turns really well. So this is a very good game. This game is probably not one that I would choose. However, there is some theme to the game. There is a good game in this box. Just a little bit dry for me. Like I said, my wife loves it. This is all our opinion, just sharing the opinion. But at 2, I think it plays very well. So hope you guys enjoyed the review, and until next time.